What we're going to be learning is today you will receive tools to assist single adults in healing their hearts. So let me ask you a question. We talked about singleness. The pastor was so kind enough to break it down. We have singles who are never married. That's easy, never been married. People who are divorced, someone who's been married and no longer married through divorce, and someone who's a widower who's not married because of death of a spouse. So all of us can relate to that. Does that make sense? Now, if you're separated, are you married or single? Aren't we a little confused? Everywhere I go in the world, it's the same thing. Everybody's confused. You're still married, okay? So if you're separated, you don't need to be dating because you're still married, okay? But guess what? They need to be ministered to. I find that they come to singles ministry all the time. When people come to the door, I don't have a card and say, excuse me, could I see your card? Are you single or married? I don't really go through all that. I just assume when people come to the events that they're single. But what I'm saying is that we as a church need to minister to people who are separated. They need to do one of two things. They need to get information to help them so that they can continue with their marriage and fix what's going on, or they need to see what they need to do to dissolve their marriage. But they need to make a decision. They don't need to stand on the fence. But we have a lot of people that are in that situation, but as I mentioned, they do end up coming to singles ministry, but they need to be ministered to. So let's stick to what we're talking about, awakening your heart after love dies. Let me ask a show of hands. How many of you have had your heart broken? Let me give you a statistic. My mother, Patricia Ann Hicks, has never had her heart broken by a man. Can I tell you? She known my dad since 8 years old. She started dating him when she turned 18 years old. At 21, they got married. You don't have to have your heart broken. It's not something that has to happen. But most times it happens because we don't make the best decisions, right? Am I saying this, or your heart was broken because you made a great decision? Most of us, I know for myself, the times that my heart has been broken, I could have made a better choice. Is that the case with you? Okay. So we need to learn to make better choices, and we're going to find out about that. Okay. Life with the spouse is an exceptionally beautiful experience for most couples. So when one dies or divorce brings separation, it results in brokenness manifested in the outflow of sadness, pain, distress, and loneliness for survivors. I will also say that life with a significant other can be exceptionally beautiful. But a lot of times, for people who are never married, but a lot of times when that relationship breaks up, it results in brokenness, manifested in an outflow of sadness, pain, distress, and loneliness for survivors. Make sense? So we're really talking right now about people who have been divorced or people who have lost a spouse through death, but it can also relate to someone who's never married who's been hurt. Does that make sense? I respond very good when I have an audience that can feel me. I need the energy to keep this going. Does that make sense? We have a conversation here. It's not going to be just me talking. I know you guys may not be used to that. A lot of places that I go, they're not used to talking back to the person who's speaking. I love it. That's how we get the conversation started. How do I know how you feel if we don't get a response, right? How do I know that you understood what I say if I don't get a response? So I don't mind if we have a conversation. Does that make sense? This is going to be interactive. For many couples, the level of attachment will be determined and the intensity of the pain caused by death or divorce. It is not unusual for the remaining spouse, even though it's spouse, it can also be for someone who was never married, who was in a relationship, to lose the desire to go on with life, feel so angry that thoughts of homicide may cross the mind. I know we're Christians, most of us, right? And I know we're not supposed to think those thoughts, but some of us have been in relationships, but we felt like we didn't want to live. Is that the truth? It happened to me. The thought came and went within 30 seconds. But for the thought to come is not good. Because why am I thinking this over anything, let alone a person? Has anybody else felt that? I'm the only one? I'm the only bad person. Okay. So, yes, things can get to that point, but we don't want to get to that point. Death or divorce may unsettle our sense of who we are, blame or distrust others, and at times shakes our confidence in God. Isn't that something? You want to hear something funny? We are blaming God or asking God why, but did we ask God if this is the relationship that we need to be in? And didn't God give us that hint saying, maybe you should not be in this thing, but you went ahead and now you're crying, God, help me. Am I saying something that makes sense? So how can we have a shake in our confidence in God when a lot of times things that happen, did we trust God anyway? Now, in the case of someone who lost their spouse through death, you can have your confidence shaken in God with that also. But remember, God loves us. And one of the things that I learned with my father's passing, it's not easy, and I'm trying to figure out why I'm not crying. I thought I would be crying every day. I cried 3 times since this happened in 3 years. The tears are not coming. I'm not stopping it. My therapist told me that everyone grieves differently. I guess the way I'm looking at it is I can't change it. I love my father. I don't have any guilt. And the only thing that keeps me going is his memory. So my thing is keep his legacy alive. One of the things I did to keep his legacy alive, and my father was big on men, empowering other men to be men. That was my father's biggest thing. So my thing is, what can I do to keep my father's legacy alive? So I developed a scholarship in my father's name. And we were blessed to give that scholarship last year to 2 young people so that they can go to school. And it was able to pay for their whole year of Adventist elementary school. And the criteria for that is my father believed in Christian education. You have to be in a Seventh-day Adventist school, whether it's elementary, high school, or college, and we would be willing to give you a scholarship if you write an essay and we evaluate it and we give it to you that way. But do something that can keep that person's memory alive, whether it's anything. It doesn't have to be something as big as a scholarship, but keeping the memory alive, and I find that's better. And what I also find is we are Christian, we say, but what I find is that when we get in situations, we fall apart. We're supposed to be Christians in the good times and the bad times. And it's not always going to be roses. And at the end of the day, you're going to hear tomorrow when we're talking about Ecclesiastes, how God tells us to live, that at the end of the day, we're all going to die. Most of us. Yes, there will be some people that will be alive when Jesus comes, but most of us are not going to make it. So my point is to live your life to the fullest, enjoy your family, spend time with them. Those that you have issues with, try your best to resolve it. If you can't resolve it, get the help you need to resolve it so that you don't have any guilt. A lot of it is guilt. We don't have to have that guilt. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, healing from death or divorce, it takes time. However, time does not heal unless appropriate efforts are directed towards this goal. So, yes, it takes time, but you need to do something to make that healing process begin. Does that make sense? Okay, now, in the context of marriage, some researchers postulate that 1 year of healing should be given to every 2 years of marriage. You notice that when people get divorced, sometimes they're married in the next year or a few months later. That's not good. Depending on how long you've been married, you should have 1 year healing for every 2 years of marriage. You need to heal before you get remarried again. Find out what is it, why is it, we're going to talk about this tomorrow. Why is it that we made this choice? When we are married or in these relationships with people that aren't going anywhere, the first thing that we do is we blame the other person. And we say, why did you do this to me? Why did you do that? Or he's this or she's that. You have to take some time and look in the mirror and say, I chose this person. What's going on with my psyche that I chose this person? Yes, this person may be this, that, and the other, but what about me? What is going on with me that I chose this person? What is going on with me that I choose the same person? Relationship after relationship after relationship. They have a different face, but it's the same type personality. Because we haven't rewrote our script. Do you understand what rewriting your script is? One thing I learned in Focus Ministries a long time ago is learning how to rewrite your script. We're all given scripts in life. Our script could be that we came from two parents who loved each other. Two parents that if they were in the same room, they'd kill each other. A single parent family, an abusive family, whatever it is, doesn't mean that that same thing has to occur generation after generation after generation. Okay, your mother had a baby out of wedlock. Your grandmother had a baby out of wedlock. Your great-grandmother had a baby. Okay, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that it has to happen to you. It has to happen to your children. It has to happen to your children's children. You can stop the cycle. Your daddy was a cheater. My whole family's a cheater, so that's what we are. No, stop that generational curse. You can get the help you need, stop it so that you can move forward and this thing doesn't have to continue.